You made this mess and left me with the pieces. Now I wanna burn all the bridges between us. I can't focus, I can't forget.
Hey friends, it's Hurley from Eclipse and welcome to another video. Now in today's video, I'm super excited to introduce another card making life hacks. You all seem to be absolutely loving this series and I love creating it, so I'm here for another episode. Again, we're making 2 cards in today's video and I'm going to be walking through a bunch of different life hacks as we go and create these cards with lots of inky techniques and things that are going to save you time to make some really awesome cards. There will be links to lots of stuff that I use and share in today's video down below in the description, so be sure to check that out, as well as over at my blog there will be lots more information. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so this first life hack is definitely one of my favorites. My friend Daniel from Dell & Arty shared this with me, and I thought it was super clever, so I wanted to share it in today's video. He said I could. I'll link his channel down below. He's really awesome, so be sure to check him out as well. These Thinlits die sets with little word dies sometimes come along with this shadow here. So it has the actual word die and then it cuts out a little shadow around it. So you can cut that out of vellum or a different color cardstock and it really makes the die pop off your card and it makes the word a little bit more readable. Some die sets, like this Thanks Sugar Script die, I absolutely love the font this has. But this one just comes along with the word die, so it cuts out just like this. So if you want to make a border, I'm going to show how to do that. So you guys know me, I'm all about bright colors, so if you want to lay this down onto a piece of black cardstock, you totally can, but I'm going to ink blend my own background. So I'm using Rosy Cheeks to start out with. Grab my little mini ink blending tool, and I'm going to create a nice colorful little rainbow background here for that white die cut to sit on. So I'm just going in with Rosy Cheeks first. I'll blend this color on. And then I'll take Slippery When Wet and add that right into the center. And in between that pink color and this yellow color, it's going to create a nice orange in between there, which I love. And then I'm finishing this off with Clear Skies, which is a super bright blue color, and that's going to create a nice green right in between the Slippery and Wet and this Clear Skies. And if I want to, I can go back and forth between the colors. I'll go back into Slippery and Wet here and add a little bit more color onto there, and then I can bring back in some Rosy Cheeks to bring back in some of that pink. So once I have my blended background all finished, I'm going to take the word die, and you can see on most dies it has a little ridge along the words. Some are thinner than others, some are a little bit thicker, and that's going to determine what size border you have around your word. So all I'm going to do is place this down like I would to cut the die out, but we're not going to cut it with my die cutting machine. All you need to do is go around it with a pencil, and I'm just going to trace along this word. And it might take a little bit of work. You're not going to want to do this with mass producing or anything like that. But if you have a favorite die cut that you love the font of and you want a little border around it, this is a great way to do so. And once that's done, I can go in with a scissors and just quickly trim this out. Now when you're fussy cutting, to get a smooth line, all you have to do is move the paper instead of the scissors. If you move the paper instead of moving the scissors, you're able to follow those smooth lines really nice and easily, and it gives you a great finished result. So I've added a really quick and thick clear coat on top of my sentiment here, so be sure to check it out in the top right corner. I have a video showing exactly how to do this. And then all you have to do is adhere the word right onto the shadow, and if you use some liquid adhesive, you have a little bit of time to move it around before it's all set into place. And there you go, that's how you create a really awesome little shadow for the back of words. I think this really makes it stand out and adds a little bit of extra touch to your card. Okay, so this next life hack is all about claiming your work. And I've shared this one in the past, but I wanted to give an updated version with a couple more resources to really share a couple of different ways to do it. So let's get started. So if you don't want to invest in a stamp with your name on it, there are a couple sets like this one from scrapbook.com where you can stamp and then sign underneath it. So there's a couple sentiments that say made with love, handmade for you, paper, ink, love, and I particularly love this handmade by one. So I'm going to ink up the handmade by stamp. I'll stamp this right down onto my project. And now all I need to do is add my signature here. So I'm just going to grab a little marker and I can quickly and easily sign the back of my card project. So this is a really easy way to claim your work. It's got a really nice handwriting above. Now my handwriting is nothing to write home about. That's why I don't usually do this, but if you just want to get into it and you don't want to pay for a custom stamp or anything like that, these stamps are a great way to do that and add your little signature to claim your work. Now recently a company called Magnuson Custom Stamps reached out to me and asked me if I wanted some custom stamps as a gift with no strings attached. And they were really happy to make them for me, which I was super excited about. Now I am not getting anything for talking about them, but when they arrived I was super impressed with the quality of them and I wanted to hop on here and share them with you guys. So here is how the custom stamps actually stamp out. They created two, so one has my Simon Hurley Create logo like this, and then one has the Simon Hurley Create inside of the little ink splotch that we have, which I absolutely love how these stamp, and they're really high quality red rubber stamps. Now these stamps aren't mounted onto wood blocks, they're actually just mounted with some cling foam. And this makes it super easy to just peel this off, and then you can add this right down onto an acrylic block, so I can make sure that it stamps nicely, and this makes it super easy for storage when you want to put it away, or you can always leave it attached to an acrylic block. It's pretty thin and it's still easy to store. Now another upside to this is that you can attach it into a MISTI stamping tool. So I'm going to open up my card that I created here. If you spent a long time on a card project, you would hate to mess up the back of it. So then you can place down your stamp in the exact position you want it. Then I'm able to close this down, and I can stamp it down then. And what I really love about this is I can get a double inked image then. So I'm going to go in with some triple berry ink. I'm going to ink up kind of the top half of this image. And once I've done that, I'm going to take a little bit of paper towel and I'll dab right off there. Just a little bit of that color in between. Then I can stamp it down. And since this hasn't moved at all in the stamping tool, I'm able to go in with some Remember Me, and I love this color combination. I'm just going to ink up the bottom portion of this stamp. And then I'm going to just blot off, again, just the top portion of that stamp, so that it's going to give a nice fade in between both the colors. I'll stamp it down again, and look how beautiful that turns out. So I just love that with this, it's super easy to put into a stamping tool, and you can do some really cool techniques like this with multi-inked stamps. And I am absolutely in love with Triple Berry and Remember Me together. I think they look so beautiful. And here is the more simple version of my lined logo, and I love this if you want to put it on the back of kind of a more elegant card like this. All you need to do is open it up. I'll take some embossing ink, ink that up, and then I can stamp it right down onto the back of my card. So I love this one for a more elegant look, whether you want to quickly stamp it in black or heat emboss it like this. Adding it to the back of cards is really beautiful, and I love that I can stamp this one and make it look like my signature, and I don't have to write because it doesn't always turn out this good looking. So I'll leave a link to these awesome custom stamps down below in the description box, and they're really super nice and easy to work with. You have to send them a logo, or I think they have a couple custom ones already made where you can just type your name in and send that over, and then you'll talk about sizing and pricing and things like that, and it's really easy to make your custom stamp. Okay, so this next life hack is something that I shared at Creativation, and when I did it, a lot of people seemed to be a little bit surprised with what I did. So I wanted to share it here as well. This one is with stencils, to get a little bit more use out of your stencil. So when you put ink through this stencil, it's going to go through all of these negative areas that are cut out. But what if I want to stamp with this and get the positive image that it has? All you need to do is take your ink pad. Here I'm going to take a woof. You could totally go with bright colors, but I'm going to make this match the die cut we created earlier. And then all I need to do is just go in with my ink pad and run it along the surface of this stencil. I'm just applying ink all over the surface, so you can tap, you can rub it along here, just getting lots of ink down onto the stencil. So once I've done that, I'm going to take a little bit of water and mist it over top here. You don't need to add too much, just a nice little mist. And then I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock and take the area that we've inked and sprayed and I'm just going to lay this right down onto the surface here and press it down. You could totally use some paper towel to keep your hands nice and clean, but I'm just going to touch every area where we added that ink, and then I can pull it right off here. And you're not going to get a full image. Depending on how much water you added, it might kind of fill in the image a little bit more than it did here, but I totally love the results of this, and I think it looks super awesome to get the actual positive image that you usually wouldn't get with your stencil. My backsplash stencil doesn't have a ton of surface area for the color to stick, so I wanted to share it on my Stargazer stencil as well, which has lots more surface area that I can ink up. So with this one, I'm going to do some variegated colors. Instead of doing it in stripes here, I'm going to take the lightest color first. This one happens to be overzealous, and I'll go into some different areas of the stencil to add this down. We're going to create kind of almost like a galaxy look here. Then I'll go in with triple berry, and I'm going to kind of place the color next to it. It doesn't really matter if the ink pads touch just a little bit. You're not going to really contaminate your ink pad, but try not to swipe it directly through the color. And then I'll finish it off with a little bit of Remember Me, and this is that nice dark blue color, and I'm just going to place that in some areas where there's no ink. So once I'm done with that, you guys know the drill. We'll spray this down. This time I'll add a little bit more water even. Then I'll grab a piece of paper. You can already see some of that color moving. I'll flip this right over, and I'm going to place it directly down onto my card. And here you can see that since we've added a little bit more water, you can see the color moving a little more. And if we give it some nice pressure, the color will kind of move around and mix to create a really beautiful background once you're done. So here is a look at both of those finished backgrounds. I absolutely love how you can stamp with the stencils and get this beautiful watercolor look. And you can do it with a more solid stencil or a more lined image like this. And depending on how much water you add or how little water you add, you can get more of the design or less. Now I love to pull out my inks and do some watercoloring, but if you love to color on the go, sometimes you don't always have the surface like a non-stick craft sheet to apply your color down and get a really great watercolor. So most of us are used to just taking our color and putting it onto a non-stick surface or a craft sheet like that, and then you've got lots of color to work with, and you're easily able to take a paintbrush or a water brush to grab some of that color and apply it right down onto the surface of your cardstock. And that makes it super easy to add color down and create some cool watercolored effects. But if you're on the go and can't find a surface like this, a great way to use your ink pad is to just use the lid. So all I'm going to do is lightly press in the center of my ink pad until I can feel the top of my ink pad hit the actual pad that's inside, and that'll create just a little bit of ink on the surface there. And this is great for watercoloring in little images. If you want to grab a little bit of color there, that really nice concentrated color, and if you're coloring images, this is a really easy way to apply that color to your surface and get a really great watercolor. Now I love to go in here and make sure this is nice and clean before I shut my ink pad, and that way the water doesn't hit any of the ink pad surface and react with the lid. But this is a really great tip for on-the-go coloring if you don't have a surface like this, but you want to use your ink pads as the actual palette to create some really cool watercolor effects when you're on the go and ready to color. Now sometimes you have an image, but you want it to be stamped in the opposite direction than the image was created, or you want a reverse image of the image to use alongside of that one. And this dude's 2-stamp set, I have this image that's drawn hanging off the side of the card, and you can add little heads onto it and create an awesome little guy for your card. But let's say you want this hanging from the right side of your card instead of the left side. So let me quickly show you how to do that. A great way to do this is using the gel press. So I have one here, this is a nice rectangle size. You don't always have to use these just with paints. They transfer ink really nicely as well. Okay, so all I'm going to do is ink up the image that I want to mirror, and you want to make sure you have a nice dark black ink pad that's really got a lot of ink in it, because that's going to transfer really nicely. So then I'm going to take my image, and with the gel press, it's pretty easy to overpress. So I'm just going to want to lightly kind of tap that almost into the surface. You don't want to add a lot of pressure, and just tapping it, make sure that the image is going to stay really nice. Then I'm going to take a piece of white cardstock and just apply a little tiny bit of pressure here. You don't need much. Then I'll peel that right off, and there you can see we have the mirrored image. So this is how this guy would usually stamp, with his arm going this way, but you can totally change it up using the gel press. And I find that this is better than using a clear stamp to transfer the image, because there are some out there that are solid clear stamps, but this one transfers really nicely because it's meant to do that. So to finish this guy off, all I need to do is choose a head from the stamp set. I'll take that on my acrylic block, and then I'll take some more archival ink and ink this image up, and then I can easily line it up. I kind of look through the side of the stamp to make sure that it's going to line up really nicely, and then I'll stamp that right down on my surface. And there you go, you've finished off your little guy. Then you can just apply some color into this and you've got a really awesome image. And sometimes you want to create a mirrored image to use it alongside your image that's already in the stamp set. So if I have one fish facing one direction, I want to mirror it, and then you can create a great couple of fish for your card. So if you want to do that, that's a great use for this. So to finish off this card with the guy hanging off the card, I'm going to take a little bit of slippery and wet ink. This is that nice yellow color. And I'm going to spray this. And then the guy is going to be coming onto the card on this side. So I'm going to add a little bit of ink onto here to kind of ground him there. So I'm just going to tap on a little bit of ink. Kind of make it go towards the center. Like that. And then I'm going to heat set this. So then I'm going to go back into here. And I'm just going to tap on even a little bit more color. And this is just going to add a little bit of texture and create some interest on the front of your card. You can also go in and blend some color on top of there. I'm going to stay with that same slippery and wet color, so it's all tone on tone. And then I can go into that Stargazer stencil and just blend some of those stars onto there. I think this is super fun because it doesn't always have to be used for a nighttime sky. You can totally use it as kind of like a celebration as well, with stars bursting out of there. So to finish off this card, I'm going to add the little envelope from the same stamp set. And all I'm going to do is slip this right underneath his hand there. Then I'm going to ink up this stamp that says Dude. I can stamp this right down onto the card there. So that this reads, Dude, I made you a card. And I absolutely love that sentiment. I think it's so much fun for a card like this, and it really completes off the whole look. Okay, so to finish this card off, I want a ripped edge, but since I'm OCD, I want to make sure this rip is going to kind of go straight. So I'm placing down this clear ruler, and then I'm just going to rip up right from there. And this is going to give me a more clean rip, so that it kind of follows that edge there. And then I can go back if I want to make that rip a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's a good way to make sure your rip is kind of straight and following the same edge and that you don't rip anything accidentally on this side. But I love how this ripped edge looks on this card, and I also love how we flipped this image. So instead of having it hang off of this edge, you're able to mirror the image with the jelly plate and put it on the other edge of the card, which I just love. And that's going to give me that really cool tone-on-tone look on that sweater, and it's not going to be too distracting from the rest of the card. So I'm going to add this guy onto the background that we created with super neutral colors. And I colored him in with neutral colors as well, and this is because I'm going to take this thanks die that we created that's super bright and colorful and make him look like he's holding it in between both arms. So that means I need to add a little bit of foam tape underneath both sides there. I've added some foam tape on both sides, and then I'm just going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive in the center there. This is going to make it so that I can apply the image right down to the surface there, making it look like he's holding it. And then that foam tape is going to rest on the card, and then right in the center there, there's some liquid adhesive to hold that right down. So here is the finished card. I just love that kind of muted background that we created with that stamped stencil, and that really awesome sentiment with that shadow behind it. That adds so much color and really makes it stand out against today's background and card. Alright friends, I hope you really enjoyed that video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and leave a comment down below letting me know which was your favorite card and life hack. I can't wait to chat with you guys down there. And also, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below, and that little bell icon next to the subscribe button will make sure you get all my notifications. I hope to see all of you guys very soon for another card making and crafting video. Have a great day. Bye!